We can clearly see that, historically, at the beginning, feminism was made up of girls and women from the proper Puritan English bourgeoisie who no longer wanted their lives to be limited to motherhood or childcare, that is, to managing the family unit, and who, since they had gained access to education, etc., wanted to enter the world of men, meaning the world of politics, the world of management outside the household, and so on. It was inevitable, it was quite logical. So then they found themselves confronted, I'm trying to reframe the issue, they found themselves confronted with a problem that isn't political but physical, which is that they bear children. Motherhood and childcare are not a political injustice or a conspiracy of men against women. It's something that belongs to the realm of nature. So here we have two problems among feminists, and we can already see this with Simone de Beauvoir. She tends to historicize everything because she somewhat clumsily copies Marx and uses his tools. Such an existentialist, which are already a botched distortion of Marxism, and she says, in fact, that woman is a historical creation, that's already what she claims, and that it's tied to male violence and a male conspiracy, and that women must be liberated from it. Now, it's true that women can be freed from quite a few ideological and political injunctions, which we might call the somewhat violent Mediterranean patriarchy, with the rules of inheritance. So this is the question of social equality. We can raise the issue of social equality, but social equality does not mean physico-organic identity, nor even psychological identity, since the physico-organic induces and generates the psychological. So, in a rational, modern and egalitarian society, for society to function well, we must move towards social equality between men and women, because first of all, it liberates, it frees up energy and potential. When we move toward equality for women, we put women to work and we create GDP and we unleash production and productivity, wealth and spending. We must not forget that women become a market, whereas before they were not a market. The mother, the wife and mother are in the sphere of gratuity, that is, exchange outside of the marketplace. And that's why the market, also dressed up in human rights, at a certain point liberates women, because what does it liberate her from? It liberates her for the market, for wage labor and for consumption. So that's something feminists have trouble analyzing. And within this egalitarianism, they don't see that there's also a trap set by capital. Already within this social egalitarianism, there's a trap of capital and the enslavement of wage labor. Sometimes it was better to be a housewife than to depend on a husband, than to depend on a boss. And then we also see that depending on one's class background, the position changes. The poor woman subjected to factory work would love to marry a bourgeois and become a housewife. For her that's social advancement and she wishes for it, whereas the bourgeois housewife wants to enter the workforce, but she doesn't claim to want to work in a factory. For that, you have to be Simone Weil, the real one, not the childbearing version. And generally what she wants is to open a bookstore tea room, a contemporary art gallery, and to be an art critic. So it's clear that feminism is overdetermined by class realities, even though indeed the issues of sex, gender and class must be analyzed as three components, which by the way has always been done by serious people. Then there's the much more grotesque aspect, which is equality in the sense of identity, psychological affective identity and biological organic identity. Men and women are physically different, that's obvious in terms of muscular strength, sexuality, and that leads to psychological differences, which means that indeed the relationship to the other, towards men, towards women, the relationship to the world is not the same for men and women, and these psychological differences must be understood in order to truly understand men and women and their interrelations. From this point of view, feminism is already trapped on the liberal ground of capital, of wage labor, etc., and actually becomes a danger and a force of stupefaction when it comes to psychological understanding. You are not a man.
Oh, no, I don't know what makes you say that I'm a man, but I'm not a man. Your appearance? Oh, really? Well, you shouldn't confuse gender identity and gender expression, otherwise we're already off to a bad start.
Feminism is reaching, I would say, the height of its contradictions today, where it becomes the tool of utter nonsense. That is to say, there was a time when feminism could be dressed up as a kind of progressivism, and there was a certain progressivism in feminism. You couldn't deny all of it. The social status of women, the issue of abortion, because there is a progressive aspect to abortion and then there's a reactionary aspect to abortion, the progressive issue is the woman who has been raped. The poor woman, the woman who has had children forced upon her in every possible way, who at some point would like to have control over her own destiny and be able to have a say in childbirth, even though she is a vehicle for childbirth that goes beyond her as an individual. That's it, because a woman is not just an individual who has children, she's also the means by which society, men, husbands, families, society as a whole have children through the woman's body. So she is caught up in something that goes beyond her and that must be managed politically and so on. So the concept of my body belongs to me, no, it's not really that true. Your body belongs to you, but it also belongs to society, to history and so on. Here too there is a political issue. We can't leave the question of children entirely up to women's free choice, because there are issues like the age pyramid, declining birth rates, the aging population and so on. So that's why there's a moral question, a political question, an ideological question, and the woman is caught up in all of this no matter what she says. Complete individualism leads nowhere politically. But feminism today is complete individualism, a denial of the difference between the sexes, and therefore a denial of the difference in psychologies. And today it's being used by capital as a reactionary manipulation, even on a strictly social level, reintroducing night work for women and breaking social solidarity in the workplace. The employers, to quote Arlette Laguillet, have always supported both women's work and feminism, because it both lowers wage costs, divides social struggles, and increases the level of nonsense. So it's important to understand this double injunction, which people don't grasp when they think in binary terms. The employers and the power of money had every interest in promoting both women's work and feminism. Just as today they have every interest in promoting both the spread of Islam and Islamophobia,